Let me know in the comments below, who was your favorite character and what was your favorite move? We're talking the new Mortal Kombat. Mortal Kombat is out today in theaters and on HBO Max. Mortal Kombat is directed by Simon McQuoid and produced by James Wan. Alright, so this is a video game adaptation film. This is a kind of a retelling of the classic game. We do have the 95 film, which it's not the greatest film, but it is entertaining and it's one I've enjoyed. But let's talk about this new one because they have made a few changes. So if you are not familiar with Mortal Kombat, at least the story of it, the story follows Shang Tsung. He is part of the Outworld, and essentially they are trying to take over the universe. There's various realms set up, one of which is the Earth realm. So in order for Outworld to kind of go about this, they must win a tournament called Mortal Kombat 10 times in a row. So both of the films are kind of set up in this way where we're basically going into that final tournament, and Shang Tsung is on a mission to win this tournament so that he can take control and enter Earth. So the movie is going to follow Lord Raiden, who is going to basically bring together Earth's champions to fight in this tournament. Now, this one is a little bit different from the 95 film, and some things worked and some things didn't. So let's talk about those. One thing I really enjoyed about this film was you get more of a backstory between two main characters, Sub-Zero and Scorpion. You do see these in both films, but in the 95 version, you just really get context that they are enemies, but they never fight one another. They are under the control of Shang Tsung, and he just uses them to fight against the various champions in the tournament. Whereas here, you get the opening scene that gives you a little bit more context that, they're enemies and they're going head to head. I really enjoyed the opening scene. It is available. It was released earlier in this week, so I did check it out, but it is really cool. I think that was a great build-up. But past that scene is when things get a little bit different, and that's when things don't really work out as well. We are introduced to a brand new character. His name is Cole Young, and we see that he is a fighter. He's got a family. But he also has this interesting mark on him, and this is one big difference than the previous film. I will do my best to not get into too many spoilers. This may be a slight spoiler, but I don't think it's that much of a big one, so I think you're okay. But the big difference is, if you look at the 95 version of the film, it's kind of set up to where, anyone who's considered a great fighter will fight in this tournament. Whereas in this newer film, they're setting it up to, if you have this mark, that means you're chosen to fight in this tournament. So I think that is okay, that aspect of it, but getting into this new character just wasn't the best decision, in my opinion. We do get all of the classic characters. Now, some are left out, but we do get a good handful of them. So right off the bat, we are kind of going into this path that, Cole is realizing that he's been chosen. He's been trying to figure himself out, but immediately we are on this path of okay, we got to get all of Earth's champions together so we can prepare for this tournament. Whereas Shang Tsung is trying to weasel his way around it and do things his own way to try to bypass the tournament and take over the universe. So, we do get similarities there from both the older film and this film, but let's kind of talk about other things that worked and didn't work. So, what worked for this film for me is the fight sequences. I think if you look at it from the fight sequences to looking at it more from a video game perspective, it's really fun. They do things really cool and different in this film than the past one in terms of typically when if you play the game, each character has their own special ability that you want to try to figure out as you're playing to beat the other person you're fighting. They focus more on that in this one, which is really cool. I think it was drug out a little bit too long. You get this really fun opening act, then once you get to the middle of the movie, it just really slows down. But the third act is just a lot of fun. All the fighting at that point. So they're trying to find what their hidden ability is, and there's a lot of focus on that. The story is one thing that did not work for me. The script is very poorly written. There are moments in this film that just felt very repetitive. And it just, it definitely gets annoying. It's one of those, I wish the script could have been tighter. You don't get some of the core characters, which is very disappointing. You definitely get comic relief from a different character than from the first film, and I don't want to get into the spoilers of like who's out. If you're a fan, you probably know who it is, but if you're not familiar with the movies, I won't go into too much spoilers past this point. But yeah, so you're kind of focusing around characters that didn't need as much screen time as they received. That was another big flaw for me, because looking at Mortal Kombat, you have a lot of different characters, and you want to understand the motives of everyone, and you just ultimately don't get that. You're kind of focused in on a few people, which, maybe it was because they didn't get as much screen time in the original film. I don't know, but that didn't work for me. And also, Cole Young didn't work for me either. I was really disappointed that they had to bring in a new character. I get the point is like they were trying to make this story to introduce Mortal Kombat to a newer audience, but personally, I don't think it was needed. Another big thing that I didn't like was with Cole Young, in what he kind of like achieves in the end, or what he kind of unlocks within himself. To me, I thought it was a ripoff from a specific Marvel character. If you've seen the movie, you'll probably know who I'm referring to. But to me, that just felt cheap and lazy. So you do get a lot of that. When you look at this from a story script perspective, it feels very lazy. But what I recommend is don't do that. Just, look at this as a popcorn flick. It's a lot of fun. It's a lot of gore. There is a lot of language in it. But looking at it as like someone who really likes the characters in Mortal Kombat and just likes the fighting and that kind of like tone and the energy it brings, I think you'll enjoy that piece of it. And the fights between Sub-Zero and Scorpion are just really, really awesome. So overall, it is a bit of a disappointment, but it is a fun film. It is one I'd probably watch from time to time just for sheer entertainment, but it's one that I'm struggling if I can invest in. I do believe one of the characters has signed on to do 4 additional films, so it seems that they do want to expand this universe, but I just hope they can do it right. I hope they can look at this film, look at what didn't work, and let that be a lesson learned, and try to fix that in the films going forward. So overall, I'm going to give Mortal Kombat a C. Again, if you're just looking for something that's going to be entertaining and you're really into like blood and guts, fighting, gore, video game, cool effects, you'll have a blast with this film. But don't get invested in the story because it's really weak. You do get some character development, primarily with Sub-Zero and Scorpion, which is really, really fun. But everything else was just a bit of a flop for me. Overall, yeah, check it out. I think it's a good weekend flick. So yeah, you may have fun with this. Anyway, thanks so much for watching. If you're new to this channel, my name's Luke. I review movies. I also try to talk about movie news throughout the week, and I've got a couple of podcasts. One is called M.A.C.E. Just search for Agents of M.A.C.E. Right now, we are talking about The Falcon and the Winter Soldier. The finale of that dropped today as well. And then I've also launched a new podcast called Take 25. This is an Arkansas-specific podcast where I have conversations with various Arkansas creators. The first episode is live. You can check that out on my channel as well. Thanks so much. Be sure to subscribe and smash that like button. I'll see you next time.